Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from downtown Baton Rouge. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from our studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. It means we're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got Jacob back and Cassidy Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got a lot to do here as we do most Wednesdays. It's What If Wednesday. In 15 minutes, we'll get to those in the Bayou Ford chat. Also had a couple of those fly through on Twitter, so we'll get to them. JD PicKell from On3 Sports at 1:30 talking the national college football landscape. Excited at 2 o'clock. We'll chat with Brad Haupt, former Tiger national champion, 9-year big leaguer and all-star, who also is now a proud dad as his son committed to LSU back on Monday. So we'll talk to Brad about that process, maybe go down memory lane a little bit with his run with the 2000 Tigers as well. So we'll have Brad Haupt 1 hour from right now. And then my latest edition of SEC Power Rankings coming up at 2:30. Got those right in front of me here. And there's some significant movers. Got one up 5, one back 6, another one back 5. It's volatile here as we sit here in the middle of September. So we'll get to that an hour and a half from right now. I got to talk Saints as well. Not a lot of preview discussion for LSU and Southeastern, but we got some news today, and we'll start there with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Brian Kelly was with the media for 10 minutes on the SEC's teleconference this morning at 10 o'clock our time, and Wilson Alexander of The Advocate came on about halfway through Kelly's period and said, hey, there's some thought that you might rest Garrett this weekend because of that torso injury. Has that crossed your mind for Saturday? And Brian Kelly said, quote, I think he needs to play. Garrett wants to play. He's capable of playing. As I said, the torso injury slowed him up, and it slowed up in some instances with the development of the offense too, because we need to be very careful with him. We knew we had two very difficult games coming up with Clemson on the road and a charged up Florida team. So we dialed him back in practice, dialed him back into what we're going to do to make sure that we protected him. He's now on the other side of it. And because we were able to protect him, so this week we'll be able to have an opportunity that he can play. He's doing some things at practice he hasn't been able to do in the last month. So we're pretty excited about what he can do this weekend. So there's your answer. He's going to play. You heard my thoughts on this on Monday. When Brian Kelly used the words, shut it down for the bye week, which means after Southeastern, after Ole Miss, that to me meant he needed to take time off. And the inference that I made based on that suggestion was that he could not do that this week, and I rejected that. And I still do. If you feel like he needs time off. And I don't know how Garrett feels day to day. I don't know how compromised he is throwing a football. It stands to reason based on all the things that we've laid out the last 2 days, he's compromised in some way. But it sounds like, based on what Brian Kelly is saying, and trust me, I'm not holding Brian Kelly under oath here. I don't care if he's telling the truth or not. But all I have is to go on what he says. And that's all I can react to. I'm fully aware that what I'm telling you may not really apply to what Garrett's dealing with because I just don't know. But I can react to what I hear. And Brian Kelly says he's getting better. He's able to do things on Tuesday that he couldn't do a month ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And it's just going to take time, whether he plays against Southeastern or not, for him to heal up a little bit. And he's progressing week to week. And if that's the case, okay, I'd still sit him, but put him out there, get into some rhythm, let him handle some of the new wrinkles you're putting into the running game potentially, get some reps in practice. That's not going to hurt your offensive continuity if he's out there getting some reps in practice. And then, again, like I said on Monday, my sincere hope is that Garrett Nussmeier is not playing in the second half of this game. You need the defense to pitch a shutout, make sure they don't have any. Southeastern has no points at halftime. Hopefully by that point, your offense has 24, 28, 31 points, and then you can shut it down and go to Michael Van Buren. That's really all I have to say about Garrett Nussmeier this week. based on what we're hearing from Brian Kelly, he's dealing with a little bit of an issue. It is getting better. He's getting treatment. He's going to play. Okay, if that's what you're telling me, I hope that's quick. He gets some practice reps. He gets to sit out the second half, and you move forward to Ole Miss. That's really the end of the discussion with Garrett Nussmeier. It's not a should he play or shouldn't he play. He's playing, so let's hope he gets out more quickly. Now, there's another layer to this discussion, though, and it is, well, what about Michael Van Buren? Now, let me be very clear about this, because I've gotten some of this on Twitter. It's like, well, if you can't beat Southeastern without Garrett Nussmeier, then you're in some trouble. Wait a second. Stop that conversation right now. Southeastern has lost its last 2 D1 games to Tulane and Mississippi State, which aren't exactly top 5 teams in the nation, 100-7. Once again, there is no scenario that LSU could go out there and play Southeastern and lose. None. Not one. They could turn it over 5 times on Saturday. They'd still win the game. It is not a fair fight between future NFL players, former 5-star recruits who are elite level talents, and FCS players. It's not even a comparison. They didn't score on Tech in the opener. So it has nothing to do with whether or not you can win the game with Michael Van Buren. That's not even a discussion. The discussion is, should Michael Van Buren get some reps, and is that meaningful to this LSU football team? I would suggest absolutely yes. It's important that Michael Van Buren get out there and play a little bit in this game. He has not played in a football game since Thanksgiving weekend of last year. He was a true freshman out there with an overmatched team that went winless in the league, that relied on him to kind of do everything on offense because they didn't have any personnel. And there were days where he was pretty productive, but there were also times where it was a mess. And what we saw of Michael Van Buren in the spring and certainly in fall camp was a little bit of a mess. And again, he was playing a lot against this defense, okay? This defense is really good. So I'm not suggesting that LSU is toast should Garrett Nussmeier need to miss a little bit of time. We'll get to a discussion about if he misses a lot of time, if that ever happens. But I do think if Garrett Nussmeier tweaks an ankle, or like the Oklahoma game last year, he's got to go to the locker room to get something checked out, and then he comes back in. But you miss a little bit of time. He misses a game with Arkansas. He misses a game with South Carolina. If there's a time where you need your backup quarterback to play, which is never a comfortable conversation to have, but it does crop up a lot. I would like it if Michael Van Buren is not going out there to run this offense for the first time. And I would like it if his action on Saturday wasn't just going out there with 6 minutes to go in the game and handing off to Harlem Berry. I'd like him to get out there and run the offense a little bit, because he does have some talent and he can run around a little bit, and he needs reps because he was inaccurate in the fall and turned the ball over a little bit in the fall. So this is a glorified scrimmage on Saturday. This is not a game where you're going to hear me on the post-game show on the network or come in here Monday and suggest that LSU has anything at all fixed on offense. You cannot judge that based on playing an FCS team like Southeastern. But the backup quarterback can get some reps, and I think it's important for him to get some reps. I haven't completely ruled out whether or not he could be used in some short yardage or goal line packages as a dual threat quarterback that can do some read option things that can help LSU in a situation right now where they're not great. They're not great on short yardage right now. I've heard Brian Kelly, Tyree Adams, and yesterday Juwan Johnson talk about short yardage stuff that they're working on, because they know they're not very good on 3rd and 1. They missed a couple of them on Saturday. Is there a scenario where getting a more athletic quarterback, whether it's Michael Van Buren or just Juwan Johnson in the game, allows you some numbers advantages and some more variability into what you can do to run the ball and pick up some short yardage things? I'm not suggesting a dual quarterback system to take Garrett Nussmeier out on 30% of the snaps. I'm talking about for this play, for these 2 snaps, for this situation, 2nd and goal from the 2. And so I would rather Michael Van Buren go out there in a 35-0 game and get his feet wet in purple and gold with a center that he might be working with some running backs he might be working with some wide receivers he might be working with some tight ends he certainly will be working with because Trey'Dez is out. Like, I'd like him to do that. And I think it's important that he does. I would like it to be the entire game, but that's not going to happen. So the next logical point in the conversation is, okay, how much and what do you need? And I sincerely hope that on Saturday, Michael Van Buren doesn't just go out there to hand the ball off for the last 6 minutes because LSU's offense sputtered again and you just won the game 28-3. And that would be a great disappointment on Saturday. So I think what we saw from Michael Van Buren showed he's a little bit rusty, showed he needs a lot of development. Here's an opportunity to kick off some rust and get some development. Again, to just absolutely pummel this horse that is long dead. I'd like him to get all the snaps in practice this week. That's not going to happen. So that is something that there's very few things that I'm looking forward to in this game on Saturday night. I was on with our friends over in 337 on ESPN Lafayette Lake Charles today, and they asked me what I thought about the matchup with Southeastern. And I said, guys, I'm not going to just try to make something up. I don't know anything about Southeastern's team other than they didn't score against Tech, and I think they beat Mississippi Valley State 55-10 last week. I can't name one player. Don't know what their offense looks like. Don't know what their defense looks like. I don't know anything about them. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time this week diving into the film and the stats on the Lions. This is about LSU getting a week of practice, getting on the field, the band coming down Victory Hill and playing the pregame song, and everybody getting to tailgate, going in there, you get the game over with. Hopefully everybody stays healthy and you move on to Ole Miss. There's not a lot of on the field you can draw from this game. It's the same thing as Nichols last year, same thing as Grambling the year before that, same thing as Southern the year before that. It's an FCS team. It's going to get ugly. But there are some things that are of value that aren't fixes for Ole Miss. They're getting some guys some development. And I think if Karis Curran gets some snaps, and certainly Michael Van Buren gets some snaps, and you get some young guys some reps on the defensive side, that is important stuff that doesn't deal with LSU's first 22. I'd love to see Michael Van Buren run LSU's offense and look smooth and comfortable doing it on Saturday night. So that's a glimpse at your quarterback situation for LSU moving into the weekend. It's our Genesis opening drive. Our Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. When we come back, let's What If Wednesday. The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. America's best warranty is what they promise you at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Talking about 10 years, 100,000 miles in that powertrain warranty. Bumper to bumper for 5 years, 60,000 miles. That is industry best. Go in and ask them about this warranty. They are thrilled to tell you about it. You've got an enhanced 24/7 roadside assistance for 5 years. That's with unlimited miles. You don't want to get stranded on the side of the road. If you've got a new Genesis, you can just make a phone call. They will come help you with that. All of your complimentary scheduled maintenance, 3 years, 36,000 miles. You don't pay for it, and you don't even have to go in for it. They pick it up and bring it right to you. Those are all the perks, and that's all wonderful. But you also want to know that you're driving a safe car and a stylish, smooth, comfortable car with all the features that you're looking for. And I can promise you, Genesis will offer that. It's a luxury brand at a reasonable price. Go by and see them. Airline at Pico. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online. GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
There's absolutely still time to jump in the pool in South Louisiana. There is plenty of time to do that, relatively speaking, in terms of the rest of the country. But summer is in the rearview mirror at this point. We are fully into fall with school and football, so the bulk of the summer is gone. And if you took this summer and thought, man, I really wish we had the pool, it's time to make that happen for next summer. There's always another one coming. So contact my guy, Joey Blanchard, Renaissance Homes and Pools, and get that customized pool of your dreams installed before next summer. I'll give you Joey's cell. It's 225-252-7745. Again, 252-7745. Joey's with you start to finish on this project. It's an important deal, right? It's your backyard area. It's where you're going to spend a lot of time, do a lot of entertaining. You want it to be done right, and Joey will do that for you. He'll sit down for that consultation. He'll be with you through the entire design process. He'll be with you when they dig that pool, Be with you when they fill that pool, when they finish that pool. Want that outdoor kitchen done? Joey can handle that as well. It's 252-7745. It's Joey Blanchard in Renaissance Homes and Pools. You can also reach out, leave your contact information online at builtbyrenaissance.com, and they are happy to get to you that way as well. Builtbyrenaissance.com. All right, love JD PicKell talking national college football storylines coming up in about 15 minutes. But right now, it's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, first one here. What if Emory Jones had returned to play his last year at LSU?
Well, obviously, it helps. I mean, you're talking about a guy there that's a high-round pick of a really good organization in Baltimore who generally does things the right way. I am going to lean more on Pro Football Focus than my eye here, candidly. Just putting the cards on the table. I don't evaluate offensive line play for a living. Weston Davis has struggled in terms of his grades through 3 games. He's got elite ability in terms of his measurables and the way he moves. Like, he's 6'6", 6'7". He's light on his feet. He played high school basketball as a 5-star recruit. He looks the part, but his numbers and scores on Pro Football Focus are not very good. So you take a step up at right tackle there. I would take him back in a hurry. I would probably suggest I'd take a guard before I took a tackle at this point, but yeah, it would be a good thing if LSU had Emory Jones. But the good news for LSU is if you had Emory Jones for these last 3 games, you would be 3-0, which is a good spot to be in.
All right, next one. What if you had to cut out appetizers or dessert?
That's really easy.
Yeah, it is.
Really easy. I'm cutting out desserts.
What?
Easy money.
No way.
I want appetizers.
Wait, Cassie's looking over here like she would also do that.
Generally,
You wouldn't cut out desserts?
What do you like?
It'd
Appetizer?
be so much
Okay.
healthier.
Okay. We're not talking about healthy right now.
Yeah, but that's just the better option.
No, the thing about appetizers is there's not that much different to me. I mean, there are sometimes things that are different for appetizers as opposed to just an entree. But an appetizer versus dessert, it's totally different. You can't, dessert is a whole different
yes,
it's a whole
it is.
different
You're
course
right.
of the
However,
meal.
I'm ready to start eating when I sit down, and that gets it there quicker.
Okay.
And here's what I usually do. I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to follow my lead here. This is just what I'm going to do.
Of course.
If we're at a restaurant, especially if it's like a fine dining restaurant, and it's time for desserts, I just want another scotch.
Okay.
Like, I will have that while y'all are all eating your whatever you're eating. Like, I love cheesecake, and I'll eat some creme brulee, and if you got some kind of chocolate cake, I'll try that as well. But if you're giving me the choice, I'm just gonna have another cocktail.
I can't get rid of dessert, man. There's just too many. It's just such a different course of food as opposed to an appetizer and entree.
I mean, if you're sitting down at your casual dining joint and they just give you that spinach dip to go to work on, or like chips and queso or whatever that you can just immediately get to,
it's
like
nice.
I'm so in on that.
I get it.
You don't have to wait for the entree to come. And then again, like if I've eaten a great entree and a full one, like, do I really need to get down on the more food, or I just want another cocktail? That's probably what I want.
It's understandable, but I mean, I gotta
Dessert's
stay with
good.
dessert.
One of the, and this is not really dessert, but it's just something. When I was like hardcore dieting for that 6 weeks there, I went and bought some Reese's like peanut butter cup deals, like just the individual cups, and I would eat that after dinner, and it was like the highlight of my eating day. Like, I love a good like chocolate peanut butter type deal, but like if I've got to cut out one, we're gonna cut dessert out.
All right, next one. This seems like more of a when, not if. What if? But what if the Florida job comes open?
That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Look, I think that the people in Gainesville will call Lane Kiffin. I think that.
Well, I'm sure they will call him.
I don't think he will take that job. And trust me, I've disagreed with a lot of people over time about what the best job is. And all that kind of stuff has changed so much in the last 10 years. I don't know that Florida is ready to go in an NIL and get their collective together and spend a bunch of money. This is more of an educated guess than a statement of fact, but it feels like that fan base is kind of wishy-washy and not as like hardcore. A lot of people that live in the state of Florida aren't from the state of Florida. And I realize it's a big school, but I feel like you got a lot of sidewalk fans that don't have a lot of money. And you need some dyed-in-the-wool money people to get it together and make that happen. I don't know that that's happened. They were last to the game in terms of the indoor facility. They were way behind in NIL. And like, I don't know that they have this thought of we should be Spurrier, we should be Urban Meyer. And in my head, like, they should be that too, because they're an SEC school in a ridiculously talent-rich area that has had amazing success in the last 30 years. But am I sure they're as aligned as Ole Miss is right now, that getting money together and getting it in these kids' pockets? I'm not. So I don't know. I'm not 100% sure that Florida's a better job than Ole Miss.
Well, and not only that, but I'm wondering what Lane Kiffin's ambitions are at this point, because I think he knows. I think he knows for sure that he can stay at Ole Miss for the rest of his life and win 9 or 10 games every year, and they'll build a statue for him.
Yeah.
If he goes to Florida and struggles for a couple of years,
he goes 9-3 twice. They're tapping their foot.
He's in trouble. And I mean, he already saw this when he had the job at Tennessee. When you go to a school like that, you don't have much time. And he's at Ole Miss. He's done well, and they have shown that they will pony up some money for NIL, and I think he likes that. And so I'd be surprised as well that he would go for that.
So beyond Kiffin, like, who's next? Like, there's no shot in the world of worlds that Dan Lanning is taking that phone call for anybody who goes, well, call Dan Lanning. No shot.
He's got
more. Phil Knight in his pocket.
Yeah.
Like, no shot. And so you start to think about some other names. And, do they call Blake Baker?
Yeah.
I feel like, based on how I think the next 8 weeks are going to go, Blake Baker's name's going to start popping up.
Yeah, I just wonder if he's at the point where he will get that type of job offer. Maybe it's like a Baylor, with Dave Aranda.
Here's a more plausible situation. What if Florida calls John Summerall?
Yeah.
At Tulane, and then Tulane comes open, and Baker went to Tulane, and then he goes to Tulane.
I could easily see that happening for sure. John Summerall is a guy that a lot of people mention with a potential getting a job at Power 5. So that would be those. I think those names would be pretty high on the list.
This is just a random thought that just popped in my mind. How would Eli Drinkwitz do at Florida?
I don't know, man. I think he's got the. I don't know. I think he's got the charisma, but I just don't know that he would fit there. I don't know. I think Missouri is perfect for Eli Drinkwitz. I think that is a perfect marriage of coach in school. I think again, he's a guy like Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss that he could stay at Missouri for the rest of his career, win 8 or 9 games almost every year, maybe have a 7 win every now and then, pop up for a 10, and they'll love him, and he'll be revered as one of their best coaches. Yeah. All right, next one. What if UCLA hires Coach O?
That just wouldn't work.
There's no way they'll do it, especially, I mean, do you really think they would be able to look past
they need a shot of life.
They do.
Like, you thought Chip Kelly was going to do that, and I guess in hindsight, he did give him a little bit of a shot of life. They were decent until he left to go call plays at Ohio State. It just wouldn't work because I don't believe that Ed Ogeron's greatest strength, which is recruiting, I don't believe he could do it there. You got enough humans that are good at football in the area, but you have a fan base that cares less than maybe any fan base in the Power 5. Like, I can't think of a school off the top of my head that cares less about football than UCLA. No. Look at their stadium. It's off campus. It's in Cal. Like, nobody cares over there. What boosters is he going to get to spend a bunch of money on players? And then can you recruit into an empty Rose Bowl? And that's it's empty right now. He needs a place that's different than that. I think he will coach again. Whether or not it's a head coaching job, I don't know. But UCLA would not work.
Yeah, I don't think it would work either. It'd be funny and interesting to watch, and I think more people would be interested in it. Kind of like
they would get ESPN out there for the press conference. Yeah. I can promise you that.
Absolutely. All right, last one here. What if Tyler Shuck doesn't start a game this year?
If he doesn't start a game this year, that probably means that Spencer Rattler's played pretty good football.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting based on wins and losses and Rattler's performance, how they handle the quarterback spot.
That's what I was
if he plays just like he has for the last 2 weeks, and they're all of a sudden 1-7, and he hasn't been that bad, and he's not really turning it over, and he's not missing guys, and they're coming up a few plays short here or there, he hadn't warranted just being benched, other than that the team's not winning,
right?
Because the team doesn't have any good players. But you would like to get him out there to see what it looks like.
I agree. I think even that's going to be the interesting,
So I guess the answer to that is if he doesn't start a game, then Rattler's played good.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say for me at least, even if he has played pretty well and they're still losing games, I still say even if Rattler has looked pretty good, I still think you got to get Shuck in for at least a couple of games. Just like you have to. I mean, because so far, at least from training camp, there wasn't that much separating them. So I would be surprised if Shuck doesn't start at least a few.
You could say, and I will listen to that rebuttal, tell him to get over it. But if he's playing decent and you say, hey, sit down, we took this guy in the second round, I got to see him for 2 weeks. What if he said, well, screw you, let me play. You took me in the draft, and I'm trying to develop too. I will hear the logical fan that says, well, tell Rattler to get over it and just keep practicing. But there is something to the fact well, I got to develop too, and you're telling me to just quit developing for 2 weeks? It's an interesting spot when you're searching for your quarterback.
Yeah. All right. Actually, I got one more here.
Okay.
What if the Shark Dogs get relegated?
I'm not sure. There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah,
we're at the lowest league. There isn't a 3-year-old league.
I was going to say, I don't think they go any lower.
We got all 3-year-olds. We got 3- and 4-year-old league.
Yeah.
You can't send us to the 2-year-old league. They can barely walk. So we would dominate the 2-year-old league.
Definitely would.
But there's nowhere else to go.
I wonder if there's going to be some trade rumors flying around with Myers. He's obviously a very talented player. A 4-year-old
really
team,
talented.
4-year-old team could probably use him.
He dribbled it straight out of bounds 5 times last week.
That's impressive, actually.
Oh,
it is.
Some
for a 3-year-old.
But yeah, I don't think there's anywhere to relegate him. You just got to leave him right there. We're as low as we can go. What's the lowest league in Mexico in European soccer?
Well, there's a lot of smaller countries that have leagues, but specifically in England, the Premier League, they have lower division. They go divisions down, and then there's local leagues where it's only teams in certain regions and stuff. So it would probably be they'd be playing against it's the semi-pro team. So that's what they would be.
These are definitely semi-pro. They get paid in gummy worms.
They're getting paid though.
They do. We were talking on Saturday. We lead the league in a couple of important statistics. We lead the league in gummy worms,
probably own goals,
and we possibly, and we lead the league in tiers. And those two, they count for something. You gotta keep those stats.
Yeah.
All right, JD PicKell next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Jonathan Carver and his team, happy to help you when it comes to captives. If you're a business that feels like you're just getting gouged on insurance prices, you feel like you take care of your risks, your loss history is good, and those premiums just keep rising, and it's tough to keep up. Have you explored a captive? Has your broker brought that to your attention? Have you looked at it? If you haven't, call the Highland Insurance Group. Say, hey, I heard Hunt talking about captives. I've heard of it. I don't really know what the deal is. Can y'all help? They're happy to look into it. You have to fit. Your loss history has to be good enough. You have to be sizable enough, and there's some barriers that you have to cross to get into a captive. But if you can get in, it can be a game changer for you, and not every broker, as I mentioned, has access to a captive program. So if you're a business, feel like you've got good loss history and want to see if you can make a big change to your bottom line in terms of your insurance and just do something different, call the Highland Insurance Group and get involved in looking towards a captive. It's the Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
In 25 minutes, we will talk to former Tiger, national champion, big leaguer, and all-star Brad Haupt. Brad Proud dad as his son committed to LSU back over the weekend. Drake will be a big power-hitting left-handed bat in Jay Johnson's lineup here in a couple of years. So we'll talk to Brad in 25 minutes. SEC football power rankings coming your way in 1 hour. Right now, it's time to talk to our guy, JD PicKell from On3, host of The Hard Count, talk national college football stories. So let's do it as he joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. JD, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling spoiled, man. Feeling very spoiled. Doing well, though. How about yourself?
We're good. We're 3-0 around here, which is a good thing. Hadn't happened in quite some time, so we're reveling in a little bit of that, even though this weekend is not bringing a lot of juice with Southeastern Louisiana on the schedule. 4-0, not a bad thing either, and that'll be what we're talking about next week. Let's talk about some national storylines here. Let's start with one that ties a little bit locally and Clemson. They lose to Georgia Tech. Dabo's talking in the press. First of all, what does that mean for LSU? And second of all, what are we talking about with the state of this Clemson program?
What it means for LSU to me is still what it means when they got that win. I understand the idea of, well, that win when you got it meant this, but now that they've lost Georgia Tech, it meant that. I don't think anybody was wrong in saying Clemson's a really freaking talented football team. And when they're at home to open the season, mentally they're in a different place than when they go on the road at a noon kick and play Georgia Tech. So I think the win for LSU should still have all the shine on it in the world. What I think about Clemson right now, though, is I'm worried about what I just said. Upstairs, Hunt, they just look like a different attitude kind of football team than what I thought we'd get. And what I mean by that is, the sell for me on Clemson preseason was that front seven is going to be awesome. They've all played together for a long time. They're going to be out with a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. And, I see a team that almost looks a little bit like they are entitled to win in a sense. And that's not me saying I know what's going on at Clemson or that I know what's going on in the inner workings, but it's very jarring to see the lack of aggression from this Clemson team. So honestly, what Dabo said in the presser, while I maybe don't love some of the things that he said being out there for everyone to break down, one of them being, if Clemson doesn't want me, I'll go win somewhere else, more or less. I like Spicy Dabo because Spicy Dabo means Spicy Clemson. Spicy Clemson, that's talented as they are, should yield good results. So what I said in our show is I'm worried about Clemson, but I also think they'll be fine because of how talented they are and what they have in front of them.
Knowing what we know about Clemson the last 10 years, this question is a little bit different than phrasing it for most teams. But would you guess that Clemson does play in another national title game under Dabo Swinney or not?
I would guess yes. And I wouldn't guess it's this year, but I would guess within the next 5 years, Clemson's playing for a national championship under Dabo Swinney, yes.
All right. Let's talk about Notre Dame and Texas A&M. What was the biggest story from that game? I'll kind of give you three to choose from, big picture. That A&M won on the road and made that play late with Marcel Reed, that Notre Dame is 0-2, or was it the holding call that they didn't make on the last play that Texas A&M ran?
I understand the answer to all three. I'll say the first one. I'll go ahead and take A, Your Honor, for A&M winning on the road. The way they're built, too. To me, Hunt, it felt very much like old A&M wouldn't have pulled that off. And I know A&M's had good moments before, but they've always felt very sugar high-ish. You get the win over LSU, and you're like, well, that was awesome, but are you going to be able to do that the rest of the way with the backup quarterback and the run? To me, it felt very sustainable. A&M, in my opinion, won that game because they, one, have a dynamic offense, which is a welcome sight if you're an Aggie fan. Two, I think it's the Mike Elko brand of ball starting to trend towards where they need it to be. And what I mean by that is 4th and goal, games on the line. I think old A&M, that moment would have been too big. Also, I don't know if they would have been in that moment because they run back the kickoff. There's a holding penalty, and everyone's like, oh, my gosh, what's going on? Looking at Mike Elko on the sideline, looks like a very calm individual. Post-game, he's answering the questions about the last play, very calm. I think this team is got the right predisposition about themselves, and I think that's all due to what Mike Elko brings, which, again, is that certain level of an expectation that's understood internally that is translating to playing winning football in the big moments. So I think that, to me, makes me feel excited as an A&M fan about what they can be here going forward because they haven't had that same level of competitive composure under previous head coaches.
Was Notre Dame's playoff chances, are they done at 0-2?
They're not done, but everyone's saying this, so I'm not breaking news, but they got to win out. They got to be convincing doing it. and they are rooting hard for USC to keep shooting up those rankings by the time they play them. So I think it will probably be enough chaos across college football to where if we're sitting there at the end of the year, I think a 10-2 Notre Dame backdoors their way in. But boy, it's going to be a discussion on Selection Sunday, which we're trying to avoid through these first 2 weeks of the season, is having there even be an argument on Selection Sunday for Notre Dame. But alas, it's where they find themselves, and I think if they win out, they'll be in. But it's not a fun place to be if you're an Irish fan.
I don't know if we learned a lot about Georgia going to Knoxville and winning a close game. That's what Kirby's program's done now for better than half a decade. But what'd you learn about Tennessee in that game?
I learned that Joey Aguilar, one, if we were wondering, Tennessee definitively won that quarterback trade, and that should be an answer.
Yeah.
Two, I think Tennessee is like a playoff caliber team. And I know it's only week 3, but if you're going to go score 41 against the Kirby and Glenn Schumann defense, even if they're young, Joey Aguilar was kind of the question mark for all of us going into the year. The receiving core was kind of the question mark going into the year. Nobody was questioning when they're all healthy and in a good spot, can the defense be good enough? We were all wondering if we'd see like the 2022 version of that offense. And Joey Aguilar, even with the picks, like I think he is good enough to take them back to the playoff. I don't know about Bama right now. I don't think anybody knows about Bama right now. I think 10-2 is extremely achievable, and I feel a lot better about Tennessee, even in a loss. In that loss to Georgia, about them going forward here with what they showed on offense.
What do you think about Miami? 49-12 over South Florida. I don't know what we know about Boise State or Florida. They're 2 good wins, but Miami outclassed them start to finish.
Yeah, I trust Miami more than I think I ever have before. I think Miami's done a lot of things over the last couple of years. Last year, they're exciting with Cam Ward. A couple of years before, when Tyler Van Dyke's the quarterback and it's Brett Lashley calling the offense, they are interesting, but they've never really been dependable. This feels like a really dependable Miami team. The trenches, I think, are SEC Big Ten caliber. I think the quarterback in Carson Beck, everyone knows what he is talent-wise, but he's playing within that system with Shannon Dawson. Maybe some of it's the ACC that makes you feel better about them, but I really trust this Miami team to evolve the right way over the season and to, by how they're built, roster-wise, be able to hang with anybody on their schedule. I think Miami's going to be a playoff team. I think Miami's going to win the ACC right now. And I think the Hurricanes are, for the first time in a long time, dependable in year 4 under Cristobal. I don't think we'll see that breakdown like we saw from them a year ago under Syracuse and under the Georgia Tech game.
Michigan at Nebraska this week in Lincoln. Wolverines go in a 2.5-point favorite. Dylan Raiola's played great. We know Bryce Underwood around here. How do you feel about Matt Rule's team as a home dog?
Everything in my spirit wanted to pick Nebraska to win that game, Hunt, because I love Matt Rule, because I love what they've done on that offensive side and how they've got Dana Holgers. There's a lot of reasons for me to like Nebraska. The number that still makes me nervous is Nebraska is allowing 5 yards a carry. And with who they have on the other side, I know Sharon Moore's not on the sideline, but it's still that running game and that quarterback who can also run the football. That, to me, makes it too rich to pick Nebraska. But I do think we leave that game saying, okay, Nebraska's not there yet, but if Michigan is who we think they are, which is still a really talented roster, still a really tough roster, if nothing else, Nebraska's trending in the right direction in year 3 under Matt Rule. So I'm taking Michigan. I think it's close, but I'm taking Michigan to win that one. And we see the progress of Nebraska overall in that roster.
I love this game. 2:30 ABC, Norman, Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold Bowl. The old quarterback of the Sooners, now playing for Hugh Freeze at Auburn, up to Norman. Pair of 3-0 teams, pair of top 25 teams. Oklahoma's a 6.5-point favorite. What do you think?
I think Oklahoma wins. I think Oklahoma covers. I don't love the idea of Auburn having to throw the football against this defense when they haven't made a point to throw the football all that much. Like, if Auburn was going to get Cam Coleman rolling and get Eric Singleton rolling, this would kind of be the first time they've done it this year. And on the road against that defense with that guy coaching that side of the football and Brent Venables doesn't feel like it's set up for a ton of success. Now, I say all that. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. There will be, I think, ample opportunity for there to be shots downfield for Jackson Arnold. It's just a matter of, can he handle that pressure that Oklahoma is going to bring, and can those receivers win consistently enough to go make it happen? But like even Michigan in their game where they threw for 142 yards, they had 3 explosive pass plays, the most notable being 44 yards downfield. So there's going to be a lot there for Auburn to take advantage of should they have the ability to do that. I just don't feel great betting on that when we haven't seen it just yet to this point in the college football season.
Every year we've got some teams we feel pretty good about in July that end up the bottom falling out. I know that Florida's probably a trendy pick for that, but are you worried about South Carolina after last week against Vanderbilt with the understanding about Sellers and the injury? Like, do we think they're teetering here?
I mean, both them and Texas, huh? Like, we did our SEC, how I'm processing the SEC today on the show, and put them into categories. My category for South Carolina and Texas is like, I'm asking, is everything okay at home? Like, this isn't you. This isn't what we thought we were getting before the season. I thought, you know, if Sellers is healthy, and maybe it's a different story in that Vanderbilt game in the second half. But like, it doesn't feel like it is matching up with what we saw before the year. And then for Texas, like Texas with one loss already to Ohio State, they still got to play Georgia. They still got to play A&M. Like, they could be a team that misses the college football playoff altogether. And what a catastrophe that would be for Steve Sarkisian with all the expectations for them preseason. So both South Carolina and Texas, to me, I'm starting to grow more and more concerned about, and we'll get a lot of information on both of them here over the course of the next few weeks, especially with Texas going to the Swamp and playing what will be, I'm sure, a desperate, if nothing else, Florida team.
We'll talk LSU and Ole Miss next week after LSU handles its FCS business on Saturday. Enjoy the football this weekend. We'll catch up with you next week.
You're the man. Appreciate you. Have a great weekend.
You too. JD PicKell on 3 Sports, host of The Hard Count, wherever you find your podcast. Search The Hard Count, certainly on YouTube as well. Great college football insight, and we enjoy this conversation every single Wednesday here. Our Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. We'll come back, had a conversation with Juwan Johnson last night. Enjoyed it. I want to tell you kind of what I gleaned from that. We'll do it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Doesn't have to be a huge, massive, monstrous, invasive, expensive. Is that enough adjectives? Doesn't have to be all that when it comes to a renovation or a remodel. It can be something very simple. Tub to shower conversion. You don't use the tub. It either doesn't function, it's old, it's rusted, it doesn't look good, whatever the case may be. You take it out and you put in a glass walk-in shower. Changes the look, changes the functionality of your bathroom, adds some value to your home. And it can be done in a quick amount of time. I talked to David about this a couple of weeks ago, and every project's different, so I'm not promising exactly the amount of hours they'll need to take to handle yours, but you're looking at 3 to 5 days potentially on a tub-to-shower conversion, again, depending on the length and scope of the work. That's doable. And if you can pay for it up front, great. If you need some financing, they can do that as well. 0% up to 18 months. Same as cash if you qualify. So check them out online at onebathandclosets.com. Onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Cubs beating down the door on that playoff spot. Just got to get a few more outs here. They'll be in. We like that. Maybe talk about it in an hour. To finish up the first hour, I want to talk about my general response to our conversation with Juwan Johnson last night. We never know who we're going to get as far as player interviews on Tuesday night. We get 4, 2 offense, 2 defense, and those are the guys you talk to. And last night, Juwan Johnson was one of the 4. And we talked to him about like the whole process of coming to LSU, moving to defense after being the most productive player in the history of Louisiana high school football on the offensive side, and then moving to running back, and then moving to quarterback, and then moving back to running back. And he said, the toughest thing was moving from safety to running back last year. If you'll remember, he was at safety behind Major Burns at the Star, and then they decided that they were going to move him to running back when Trey Holly was removed from the team for his legal issues, and you had John Emery tear his ACL. So they moved Juwan Johnson to running back. He caught a touchdown in his first game. And then in the spring, they moved him to quarterback. And he said that wasn't that hard. He had played quarterback before, and so he was never going to be the starting quarterback. You were just kind of easing in and doing something, taking snaps and running around a little bit like he did in high school. And then he moved over to running back, and he said that was the easiest thing to do, is to go back to running back. And one of the things that Frank Wilson told me 3 weeks ago and that Juwan talked about last night was that they like him on third downs because when he was with the quarterbacks, when he was with Joe Sloan, with Garrett Nussmeier, with Michael Van Buren, he was learning how to read blitzes and how to set protections. And when you have to set those protections as the quarterback, you've got to do that for all the linemen and the back. When you're the back, you just have to know the back's responsibility. So he already knows that. And we know he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's happy to catch the ball in space. And I think that's interesting that he got that knowledge and is being able to use it at running back, because that's one of the things, pass protection for running backs is one of the toughest things when they get to college, because most of the really good high school running backs didn't pass protect in college, in high school. They just ran the ball for 1 billion yards. So he's got a leg up on that. And every answer that Juwan Johnson gave yesterday about all the moves and all the tough stuff and all the things that have come easier and where he is now, he always talked about how he's got a great group around him. He wants to do whatever it takes to win. He loves playing for LSU, all these things. And it's an era where like all the players have so much leverage. And oftentimes it is about where's the grass greener? Where can I get more money? Where can I do this to help me? And trust me, I'm not here to completely shut down the transfer portal. I'm not here to tell you that Jaden Daniels and Paul Skeens and Angel Reese and Baton Rouge was bad for a lot of people. Like, that's not the point of this. But I am going to sit here and tell you when something like this happens, and I do see this story where someone this is the guy who in this position most would have transferred by now and looked for a little bit more money in a place to play where they had a full-time spot. Juwan just like, hey, where can I help? What can I do to help us win? And that was a refreshing conversation that we had with Juwan Johnson last night. So my hope is that he's going to play a lot this weekend against Southeastern. When you watch him play and he's out there for LSU, you kind of consider, I remember Hunt talked about him in that conversation, and like, that's a guy I want to pull for, because the vibes you get from Juwan and how selfless he's been are really cool, and that's somebody that's going to be easy to pull for in the purple and gold. So that'll do it for hour number 1 here. We're going to come back with Brad Hawk, former Major Leaguer Tiger and now dad of Drake, who committed to LSU. We'll do that after SportsCenter next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools. BuiltByRenaissance.com. BuiltByRenaissance.com. Get into the pool of your dreams and do it with the folks at Renaissance Homes and Pools. Joey Blanchard has been helping out dozens and dozens and dozens of people around the Baton Rouge area with their outdoor area of their dreams, customized to your situation. Pool, outdoor kitchen, whether you've got young kids or grandkids that you want to enjoy the pool, or whether you're somebody that just wants a cocktail pool to cool off in after work and enjoy something. Like, no matter what the case may be, they can put together a project that's designed for you. And Joey will be there every step of the way to make sure that it's done exactly the way that you want it done. From the design to the digging to the filling, the whole thing and the finishing, Joey Blanchard will be there with you. Give him a call at 225-252-7745. Check him out online, builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com.